Greetings and welcome to another episode of Age of Empires Castle Siege Tutorials. I am Dice Gods, and in this installment what we're going to do is we're going to discuss my other favorite method of attack. This is the one that uses Martel, and normally I prefer to use Winrich von Niprode with Martel. I don't have him unlocked yet here. So what I've been using lately is Edward. And John Kirkuis is another good one. He's a tier 2 hero. If you don't have any really good tier 3 heroes unlocked yet, John Kirkuis is a good choice. I don't normally use him once I start having a decent amount of level or tier 3 heroes unlocked. But he's not a bad one to use with Martel. Pretty much everybody works well with Martel, to be honest with you. He's such a great hero. Normally the army composition I like to use is 4 trebuchets, 1 Kirosophon, usually 4 spearmen. I used 3 there. Let's find one that's like really typical of what I like to do here. We got Jacan. Oh, it's a ram rush. Okay, here we go. Okay, so Charles Martel and Edward, the Black Prince. So we have 8 infantry, 4 spearmen, 6 ladder invaders, 2 rams, 2 longbowmen, 2 Teutonic knights, a Kirosophon, and 4 trebs. Now, this is fairly typical. Sometimes instead of the 2 Teutonic knights, more often than not, I would probably have 2 cavalry. Those are the cavalry work really good for taking out like the outlying buildings that people like to stick off in the corners or along the perimeter, what have you. But let's just go ahead and watch some replays, and I'll show you the fundamentals, the basics of these attacks that I like to do. So as always with the infantry, I like to set the fire traps if there are any. That's so obvious that there was going to be a fire trap there. So set that off, lure the enemy defensive units out from the guardhouse and the patrol points, as many of those as possible. And then always I like to deploy spearmen and these Kirosophon to deal with the enemy cavalry. The Teutonic Knights work really good. One thing that works really good, or one thing that they come in really handy for, is dealing with if it's not cavalry, if it's some other type of unit, like say Teutonic Knights. Later on, dealing with grenadiers, they come in handy for that. So, carrying on here with this attack, we deployed 2 rams, and the idea there is for them to draw out the engineer traps, to spring the engineer traps, and then the longbowmen deal with the engineers. Then we deploy our trebuchets in a line, and they start working on the wall and that first line of towers. You'll put a meat shield of infantry out in front of them. And then Martel is great for nullifying these towers by drawing all their fire. We're going to use spearmen and Teutonic knights to deal with these enemy units. There is Edward the Black Prince, and he's great for taking out towers. Usually I prefer to use him on like the secondary or even like third line of towers, because the trebuchets are so slow, it takes them so long to get back there. So I think I sent him in. Looks like I took out a ballista tower, then pulled him out while my trebuchets went to work on the wall. His power doesn't work on walls, not that you would want to waste it on a wall section. But there, once he's free to get deep into the castle's defenses, he can start taking out some of these towers. And there you go. That long-range ballista tower is a great choice to take out. Especially seeing as how it's kind of hard to tank, or I should say a little more difficult to use infantry and or Martel to tank the ballista towers, because they will not fire short range. They will only fire long range. So once it would appear we've dealt fairly handily with most of the long-range towers. There's 2 archer towers left, and we have our infantry, some other units that have provided the meat shield, if you will, for that, drawing fire so that our trebuchets can slowly but maturely work their way down there and take them out. And now these short range towers, they don't stand a chance against trebuchets. Let's just go ahead and speed things up here because we pretty much know what's going to happen. As you may have noticed, these spearmen, when they got done with this, I sent them around. There's more than likely, oh nope, it can't be a fire trap because they're both there, but that would be a pretty obvious sign normally that there was a fire trap there. And there you go. Alright, let's do another one here. Okay, this is another very typical you got the 1 Teutonic Knight, the 10 infantry, the 4 spearmen, the 6 ladder invaders, the 2 rams, the 2 cavalry, 2 longbowmen, the Chirosophon, 4 trebs. Okay, wow, this castle, Winrich von Nipperode would love this castle. He would tear that apart. Just saying, we will be discussing castle defenses and layout and design in our next episode. So, alright, so here we go. We have drawn out some enemy units. So he had a patrol point off here, so I deployed my spearmen right away. These other ones, okay, yeah, they were off in the perimeter as well for whatever reason. And they've all been dealt with handily by spearmen and Chirosophon and Teutonic Knights. Okay, so here we go. This is always how I like to start out these attacks, with the 2 rams to spring any engineer traps. Doesn't appear that we have sprung any engineer traps. Deploy the trebs in a line, and then we're going to send Martel in right away. Normally I will start out with some infantry meat shield, but it's alright. We know this is going to work. So there we go. We're trying to get through this wall here. So okay, we have finally dealt with that watch signal. Not before it managed to send at least a few units to this castle's relief. And basically what we're trying to do here is we're using Martel to draw fire from all of these towers. Now when you have towers clustered so closely together like that, Martel nullifies all of them. What you would like to have, generally speaking, is a little more spacing between all your towers. The only thing that really does provide is once they're destroyed, these foundations still are a hindrance to troop movement and units progressing. They'll always have to go around. You can't ever get rid of those foundations. But as you can see, we've sent Edward in. He's gone around to the back to take out some of these second and third line defenses. And now our trebuchets are, for the most part, pretty free and clear to do whatever they want. They're going to work on this guardhouse here. That's nice. Probably should have done that much sooner with some cavalry. There we go. They're finally deploying some cavalry there. That's what I like to have those 2 cavalry for. Unlike a lot of other players, I don't use a lot of cavalry in my armies. But having a couple in your army is nice for taking out outlying buildings that a lot of times you'll find off in the corners. I like to keep that cavalry in reserve and then deploy it to take out emplacements and guardhouses that perchance the ladder invaders didn't get to. Let's just go ahead and speed things up here. We know how this one ends. So, there you go. should we do? Looks like we got time to do one more. So let's see here. Okay, that looks like. Well, see if there's anything where I may have done things a little differently. Like this one, no cav. That's a ram rush. Let's see. Well, okay, let's just do this one. Okay, so again, we're going to start out with the infantry running along the wall here. Going to draw out some units. Let's just speed this up. Wait a minute. Okay, so we have enemy Chirosophons and archers. We're going to deal with them. And then here we go. The two rams. Again, their job is to basically spring any engineer traps, and apparently there weren't any. So then we're going to deploy our trebs in a line. They're going to work on the wall. Let's here. Generally, what I like to do is destroy as much of the wall as possible so that there's not much in the way of any hindrance of my units. So then once I have most of that wall taken out, send in some meat shield, typically infantry and Martel. And as you can see, Martel's basically going to nullify all these towers here, even that one that was there. And then the trebs just go to work, taking those towers out. And then eventually will come the swarm of ladder invaders. Once that initial first line of defense is taken out, they'll go to work on the emplacements. There goes Edward. His job is to take out, again, the secondary line. That's kind of hard for the trebuchets to get to because they're so slow. So he can go back there and take those out. I like to use him on flame towers if there are any. As an age 6, yeah, I guess. Do you have flame towers at age 6? Can't recall. I think you do. I think that's when you first get flame towers. Okay, so anyway, yeah, just going to make a point of targeting towers, getting rid of those. In order to get, more often than not, in order to get the 100% 3-star wins, try not to rush going for the keep right away. Concentrate on taking out the defenses. The keep's helpless once you take care of those towers, those watch signals and guardhouses. So here we go. We're gonna. There's not much in the way of any defenses left. Martel's gonna go in there, nullify all these towers, while the trebuchets slowly work their way. Let's see here. One thing I normally like to have always with my trebuchets. Here's the longbowmen to deal with the wall units. For some reason, these guys wandered off over there, and it's a good thing that these archers here didn't take out my trebuchets. There we go. This castle's pretty much defenseless, and it's just going to be a matter of mopping up from here. Again, there you go. That's what the cav are good for. Deploy a cavalry just to deal with these things, these outside, these buildings that lie along the perimeter there. And there you have it. So, okay. Basically, the trick is with that attack is just to basically make sure that you deal with the initial traps that may be set along the wall. Running infantry along that wall is a good way to set those off. It'll lure out some troops, bring those out away from the towers, deal with them. Typically, you're going to be using spearmen and Chirosophons against enemy cavalry. Deploy your rams to draw out the engineers, and then your trebs in a line. Keep meat shield out in front, and you should be good to go. So, all right, next episode, we'll talk about castle design. Until next time, Dice Gods out.